hooks, skips, and spreadsheets. Hope everyone can see my screen and the presentation that I'm sharing. This is the agenda for today. I'll be giving a brief introduction about Metro, which some of you might already be familiar with. Then Ishwar will be explaining hooks and skip actions that are introduced in Metro 3.4. And Mike will be speaking about the spreadsheet input, which is the new type of input that we have for Metro. Then he'll also be talking about how to find out more of such webinars or videos, or if you have more questions, those can be addressed at the end of the session. So I'll start with the introduction. What is Metro? Metro is an automation platform for installing and upgrade of all the Nuage components. It's available in Docker container, or it's available as a clone from the GitHub repo. It takes a variety of input forms. Most prominently, people have been using YAML files as an input to create their new Nuage environments using Metro. But Mike will be demonstrating command line wizard with the spreadsheet format of Metro input, where you can use a CSV file to input to give input for Metro. And Metro can be used to create a variety of deployments. If you have multiple deployments in multiple setups of your own, then you can create a separate deployment for each setup that you have. Why use Metro? It's reliable. We use it every day to bring up all the VSP components. Uh, it's automatic. We test for each and every new releases that is coming, and we also have tests running for the previous releases. And it's a hierarchy based command where you can install everything or install piece by piece some of the components that you want to install. It checks for you. It checks all the aspects of the Nuage components that need to be installed. And that is why we highly recommend that uh, all installs and upgrades happen through Metro for Nuage. This is it for now from my side. If you have any questions so far, now is the time. Else, Ishwar will take over books.
Hello everyone, my name is Ishwar. I'm going to actually be presenting hook and skip actions today, and I'm going to do a quick demo at the very end to actually show you how it works. So let me share my screen. Okay, can everyone see my slides?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so hooks. What are hooks? Hooks are nothing but they're predefined locations in MetroAE workflows where a user can actually inject his own commands to be run at certain locations. So, for example, in this demo, I'm going to actually talk about VSC deploy as actually a hook location where user can actually run the location, say VSC deploy, and run a custom command as you can see right here in the screen. Why do we need hooks? Because we have actually got a lot of requests from users saying that the MetroAE workflows are great, but they want to have the ability to run custom commands in between workflows. That's why we have actually created this hook locations where user can run their own commands. How do you configure them? You configure them in the common.yaml. So there is a parameter which is called hooks. It actually takes a list of YAML files. Each YAML file will actually list of YAML files in there. Okay. So So hook file is supposed to be a valid YAML file with parameters in it, location where where the command needs to be executed, and the command parameter, which is actually obvious as command that needs to run. The command actually can contain Ansible variables in Jinja 2 format. So as you can see here, we are actually okay. As you can see, the command that I'm actually using as a demo here says temp test VM present, and it actually passes the Ansible variable VM name as a Jinja 2 format in there. So you can actually have multiple files defined for the same hook location. So meaning that you can actually have VSC deployed defined in multiple hook locations, and whatever files that are defined for that particular location are going to run in the order hooks list. So there are hooks for both install and upgrade workflows. And the whole list of hooks that we have defined can be actually found in the hook and the skip actions.md file, where we talk about more detail on what the hooks are, skip actions, and then what are the hooks for the install and the upgrade are. So this is just a sample output which actually shows you the hook that we have defined for a VSC deploy. I'm going to actually show you this as part of the demo as well. So in here, we actually see that there is this command that's getting executed which says, hey, I'm executing this hook which says temp test VM present.sh with the VM name. But when Ansible ends up substituting it, actually substitute it as the VSC1, which is my VM name for VSC. So it actually ends up executing that script with the VSC name. So that's how the Ansible actually ends up substituting the values. Skip actions. What are skip actions, right? So skip actions are nothing but commands that actually terminate execution of a workflow in our system. So why do we need skip actions? Skip actions are something that the users have actually asked us for, is that they actually have a different way or different mechanisms to actually instantiate the VMs, and they want to install our software on top of those VMs. For example, if you have an operations team that actually just works with installation of the product, and there's this infrastructure team that's responsible for deploying the VMs, we cannot actually have Metro do both at the same time. So what we did is, for that purpose, the infrastructure team can set up the VMs, and the operations teams can go in and say, hey, Metro, I want to actually install the product, and they can define the skip actions. For example, say VSC pre-deploy, and it'll actually skip the pre-deploy portion. So it won't actually set up the VM for the VSC anymore. It will directly jump into deploying the VSC, even though you're running a install VSCs or install everything playbook. So currently, the skip actions are only supported for pre-deploy roles. And how can you configure them? Very similar to the hook actions, you can all configure them in the common.yaml file. So there's a skip actions a list of all the workflows that you want to skip. So let's jump into the demo now. Um, um, for the sake of the demo, I actually have a system that's actually installed a VSC and a VSD, so I can show you. So the VSC is actually completely installed with our software, but the VSC is only just done with a pre-deploy. So right now I'm going to actually run.
Excuse me, Isma. We can't see your terminal screen.
Oh, you can. Sorry. Sharing my whole screen.
Oh,
There, that looks good.
I can see it.
yeah, we can see it.
Yeah, it's fine from here.
Need to wait for.
Everyone can see it now, right?
Yeah, we can see your share.
Okay. So
Delay.
so for the sake of this demo, I actually have a VSC that's fully deployed and a VSC that's just done with a pre-deploy. So as you can see, there's two VMs running in my KVM right now. So I'm going to actually run the MetroAE workflow for a pre-deploy. So even before we get there, I'm going to actually show you my deployments real quick. So if you go into my deployments default common.yaml, I have defined a hook for VSC deploy. And I have defined the skip actions for VSC pre-deploy. So I'm going to show you what my hook file looks like. So my hook file actually has the location, the command parameter in there, where the location says VSC deploy. and my command that's getting run is temp test VM present with the VM name that's coming from the Ansible internally. Okay, if you want to look at that, my test command too. This is the script that I've actually created, which is nothing but a straightforward bash script, which actually runs verse list and grabs for the VM name in there and returns the exit code based on that. So now I'm going to actually do a MetroAE VSC pre-deploy. Because we already have a VSC running, and we actually have defined the skip actions for a VSC pre-deploy. Now, once the build step is done, you would actually notice that it actually exits with saying that, hey, this is part of the skip actions list. It's done the build. Now it's actually doing this VSC pre-deploy. So as you can see, it says, hey, skip action is actually defined for VSC pre-deploy. So I'm going to actually stop this playbook at this point. So it ends up actually not executing the VSC pre-deploy anymore. So the VM's not getting created or any of that stuff is not happening. So now to actually do the hook for the VSC deploy. So one thing, whenever we define hooks that for a particular location, the hooks get executed before the workflow gets executed. For in this case, so the VSC deploy hooks get executed before the VSC is deployed using Metro. So I'm going to run the VSC deploy playbook now. So as I'm saying, the hooks get executed first before the actual playbook. So look at this now. So now it actually says, hey, I'm going to execute this particular hook file, which says the command that I'm going to execute at VSC deploy is temp test VM present.sh with the VM name. Internally, when Ansible actually executes the command, it actually changes that to the VSC name here. As you can see, because we already have a VM that's running with VSC1 in there, the RC code is 0. So the exit code of it being 0, the playbook actually continues further along. If your command actually exits with a 1 exit code, it'll actually fail right there and the whole playbook actually stops running. So we are not worried about the VSC deploy because that's going to actually finish. That's all I have for the demo. Do you guys have any questions regarding this? Okay, I'm going to hand it over to Mike to actually do the spreadsheet input right now.
Thanks, Ishwar. Hi, my name's Mike.
Mike, just one quick question though, just before you get to the next one. And I'm still a little confused with the location. So what is the location in the command? Because how does the location relate to what you're doing in the hooks?
In the command is actually the predefined workflows that we have. I can open the documentation up so that you can actually look at those locations that we have in the system. So we have workflow locations for pre-installation and also for upgrade. So anytime there's a playbook or actually,
We don't see it.
oh, sorry, let me share it. Can you see it now?
Yes, thanks.
Okay, so locations are all predefined right now. So we actually have predefined locations for every step of the process where you have a VST pre-deploy location, you have deploy, post-deploy, everything for each component that we have in the system. And when you talk about upgrade, we actually have a little more detailed in the upgrades where can actually have locations for taking before the backup is taken, before the VSD1 is deployed or VSD2 is deployed and stuff like that. So all these things are actually listed in the documentation with the list of all the locations we support currently.
Okay, thank you. Got that.
Are there any other questions about hooks? Okay. My name is Mike Pykarsh. I'll be talking about spreadsheet inputs. Let me share my screen. Okay, so I'll be talking about spreadsheet inputs. Spreadsheet input is a new feature that is being introduced into MetroAE version 3.4.0. It provides an alternative way to provide input into MetroAE. As you may know, the usual way of providing the configuration is a set of YAML files called a deployment. Those deployments are still fully supported. However, we now also provide spreadsheet support in the form of CSV files. Data can be provided in Excel or any other similar spreadsheet program and then exported as a comma-separated value format. There's several ways of inputting this comma-separated value into Metro. There's the wizard, and if you've seen any of the other previous videos, MetroAE has an existing wizard functionality, which provides a step-by-step walkthrough of the installation and configuration of MetroAE. We've added a step to provide import of a spreadsheet CSV within the wizard. We also have a command line tool which can convert a spreadsheet into a deployment. And then finally, you can use the MetroAE script directly and specify the CSV file to the MetroAE, and it will do the conversion for you automatically. I'll show all of these in a moment. The spreadsheets support the exact same data that the YAML files support, and they are also validated through the schema system, which I will also demonstrate. It's the same schemas that the YAML files, YAML deployment files use, thus it has the same functionality. We also provide an example spreadsheet inside of our repository. It is deployment spreadsheet example.csv. So let's take a look at the format. On the left, you have the CSV file, which is just an example, and on the right, you have the equivalent YAML file in our standard deployment YAML deployment format. These are exactly equivalent down to the same exact data that's provided. You'll see that along the first column, column A, you have the different fields, host name, target server type, etc. And then in columns B, C, and D, you have the 3 VSDs, VSD 1 through 3. And you can see the various portions of it that are being specified, such as host name, target server type, IP, etc. So the first way of importing this spreadsheet that I'd like to show is via the wizard. There's a step in the wizard. If you've seen the wizard before, this should look familiar to you. And you see in this step that it asks if you have a spreadsheet to import. You say yes. You provide demo CSV, which is the path to the CSV that I'm demonstrating, and it in turn imports the data from that spreadsheet, which it found the VSDs in the common section in this case. There's also a tool, a command line tool, to import the CSV file. It's called Convert CSV to Deployment. It's available in the repo and I believe in the container as well through the Convert CSV command. It provides, you provide it the CSV file and the deployment name, and it will convert your CSV file to a standard deployment. You can see from the output example output that I'm providing that it found several of the tables, like common, upgrade, VSDs, etc., at various locations within the spreadsheet, and that at the end it is writing out your deployment that was specified. So it's writing out your VSDs in common. Finally, the last way I want to show on how to use spreadsheets is you can specify it as your deployment name. If you're familiar with the MetroAE command, it's the format is MetroAE, then workflow, and then deployment name. If you specify a CSV file as your deployment name, I note that it must end in .csv. It will automatically convert your spreadsheet to a deployment and import it. So you can just directly run your deployment from the command line. You can see the same tables being imported as the conversion tool. I want to note that all of the data within the spreadsheet is validated via the same schemas that we use for our normal YAML deployment files. In this example, I'm putting a bad type into the target server type under VSD1. This is not a valid hypervisor type, and you can see that there's an error that gets spit out, that it's invalid data in VSDs, and it gives you a little bit of information about it. This works for all of the three usage mechanisms that I just described. They all will provide this functionality. Okay. Before I move on to finding out more, I'd like to show you a spreadsheet. I know it's kind of small. I don't know if I can increase the size a little bit. Oops, that's not. Well, hopefully you can see a bit of this. So this is the deployment template that's provided in the repo. I have filled out a couple of values, so you can see it's set up into tables, and each of the schemas that we provide are in one of these tables. So for instance, the common schema, which provides common configuration settings for the deployment, is here. And there's some of the required fields that and useful fields that are in common. And then we provide, you can provide your values under the values portion. You can see upgrade, which I'm not doing upgrade, so I keep it blank. And VSDs. And you can see there's spaces for 6 VSDs, although the geo-redundant VSDs are not filled out, and thus they will not be present in the deployment when this is exported. Furthermore, VSCs, vstats, which is Elasticsearch, NUAD utility hosts, VNS utils, and NSGVs, and bootstrapping information. Okay, so before I talk about finding out more, is there any questions from the audience?
Hi, Mike, can you quickly talk about a situation where you would be going straight to a version something like 5.4.9, where you need to first install 5.4.1 and then do a 5.4.1 U9? So is it two runs, or can you fill everything in the same template and run it once and it would do everything by itself?
Let me get you see if I can understand. So you want to do an upgrade from 5.4.1 to 5.4.9?
No, this is a fresh installation, but you need to go straight to 5.4.U9. But there is no direct installation, right? You first install 5.4.1 and then you run the patch, and that's how you bring it to 5.4.U9.
Yeah, the U9 has no QCOW2s or OVA files, for example. So, yeah, it's a two-step process. You first do the install with one deployment, then you can modify that deployment to do an upgrade or create another deployment for the upgrade, and then it will apply the patch.
And Metro does support in-place upgrades for patch.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions?
Looks like there is a question from the chat. I can read out the question for you.
Yeah, if you could, that'd be great. Thank you.
The question goes, as far as I can see, you just give CSV file next to the install command. Seems we don't need to build the variables as before running install, right?
You don't need to build variables before install. The build, I might not be understanding the question.
I think the question is it possible to fill out the CSV file and then just run Metro? And the answer is yes.
Yes, it is. When you provide the CSV file and specify it on the command line, it automatically converts it to a deployment for you just before the build process is back to you. It's one of the first things that happen, and then it runs the normal build process like it was a normal deployment. Yes, that would be this command here. MetroAE install everything demo CSV. Install everything is just an example. It could be any of our supported workflows, including upgrade, destroy, health check, etc. Okay. Anything else?
So there are some other questions in the chat, but we can get to those when we get to the Q&A session.
Okay, let's do that then. So how to find out more? You can find out more about MetroAE from our website, which is devops.nuagenetworks.net. You can get the container RPM or the code of MetroAE from GitHub at the URL stated below. For GitHub, if you do not have access, it will come out as a page not found. You would have to request access from our website to get access to the GitHub code. You can always email us at devops@nuagenetworks.net, and we provide support via that email list. And we have many different YouTube videos on various different topics at noke.it/metrovideo.